Alright guys, welcome back to another video. In this video I'm going to be going over Andrew Huberman and his guest Dr. Andy Galpin. They're going to be going over how hypertrophy works and how strength training works, going over the differences between the two, and I'll be highlighting some of the differentiating factors, giving a more in-depth overlook on it and making it a little simpler and easier to understand, because these people like to use big words whenever they're using this, and hypertrophy in itself is a big word, so I'm trying to break it down, make it a little simpler, a little easier for you to understand. So when you hear it, when some of my videos and other people's videos, and you're trying to understand the basics of training, you really can break it down and get a fuller understanding of the topic. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into the video. Alright guys, so here we'll be going over this little clip from an interview with Andrew Huberman and Dr. Andy Galpin, I think that's his name. And we'll be going over the principles here so we get to compare muscle hypertrophy and how it relates to strength training. So I think this is going to be a pretty interesting video to watch, and I'll give some of my thoughts on it to simplify it, dumb it down a little bit, so it could be used in a more basic workout routine or regimen, and it's not overly sciencey for you guys. So let's get into it.
Let's talk about strength and hypertrophy. If you would, please remind us what strength and hypertrophy are in terms of the specific adaptation they represent. What I mean by that is, when somebody is training for strength, what are they really training for? Obviously, it means the ability to move more weight, but I know that it includes a number of other things as well. And when one is training for hypertrophy, for the growth of muscle fibers, what does that represent? Because I think if people understand that, they will far better understand the methods and protocols that are going to be best for strength and hypertrophy.
At its core, you've basically described it. When we talk about strength, we're talking about
I completely agree. I'm going to just keep on.
an actual function. So can you create more force across a muscle or muscle groups or total movement?
Strength is just
when we talk
lifting
about
more weight.
Now we're specifically referring to just an increase in size. There's no actual mention of function. So a muscle can grow larger without actually technically being stronger. For a number of
100
reasons.
Pounds and you lift
however,
80, I have more strength.
There is a strong relationship between strength and hypertrophy. So a lot of the times in the general public, in the lay conversations, we sort of lump those two things in as the same thing. And so we have to recognize people who are new to training, or people even are intermediately trained. There is a huge overlap between...
Completely agree. There's a huge overlap between hypertrophy and strength. But hypertrophy is more endurance based. So let's say I lift 100, but I can only do it once, and you can lift 83 times. But if I went down to 80 pounds and I tried to lift 80 pounds, I can only lift it 2 times. Even though you can lift 100 pounds, I have more strength, but you have more, your muscles have been trained more for hypertrophy, so you have greater endurance. So you'll have a lot of strength and are horrible runners. So even though their legs are huge, so that doesn't directly mean that bigger legs makes you a better runner. So having more muscles in your legs will make you run faster. Doesn't also mean that you'll run faster, because you need to have endurance in your muscles. That's where hypertrophy goes in. That's where you get your slow twitch muscle fibers. And also why powerlifters aren't necessarily looking like pro bodybuilders, even though they might be stronger than them for one rep of a workout. So let's keep on going.
Strength and hypertrophy. Once you get past that, though, they become disentangled. And a good example of it is this. If you look at the strongest people in the world, this would be people who compete in the sport of powerlifting. Right? That's a true test of maximal strength. So it is a deadlift, a bench press, and a back squat. And you're going to do a 1 repetition max in all 3 of those. And so whoever wins is the person who lifted the most amount of weight 1 time. That's it. It's not like World's Strongest Man, where it is how many reps can you do in a row or your time, right? It is a true maximal strength test. And you compare those to, say, bodybuilders. Mm-hmm. Now, both of those individuals are strong. And both of those individuals have a lot of muscle. True. However, it is extremely clear the powerlifters will be significantly stronger than the bodybuilders on average, right? There are individual exceptions, but we're just talking collective averages. And the bodybuilders will have more muscle than the other ones.
Slow twitch muscle.
Whether you look at Olympic weightlifting or powerlifting or World's Strongest Man for that matter, there are weight classes. And the reason is, as you go up in weight classes, you will always see the world records go higher and higher and higher. right? So
Very
you
true.
can clearly get stronger without adding any muscle. However, there's a point, right, where you simply have to add more mass to get a higher number. And that's why we have weight classes.
There's also this thing called neural efficiency, which you might go over further into this video, where the more you train a specific movement, the better your body gets at doing the movement with using less stress on the muscle. So if you become very active, your body will be able to run very well and you'll use less energy. You might also gain the ability, also likely gain the ability to run more because you have more energy, but you'll also become better at using the energy. The efficiency increases, which is really also another reason why powerlifters are generally stronger. Not just because they have more fast twitch muscle fibers, but they use their muscles more efficiently when they're doing the movement, which is a very important note to add.
In those sports and in combat sports and lots of other things. So there's a lot of confusion, right? Because people think, man, either these are the same thing, or if I want to get stronger, I have to get bigger, which is not the case at all. Another misnomer here is I can't get stronger unless I add muscle. That's not true either, right? It's a similar idea. So what I'm saying is you have the ability to do whatever you'd like. If you'd like to get stronger and add muscle, great.
Great
If
for
you
you.
add muscle, you're probably going to bring some strength along for the ride. However, if you want to get
Very
stronger
true.
and you don't want to add muscle for any reason, personal preference on aesthetics, whether you're in a weight class and you simply can't afford it, it is quite easy to get stronger and not add much muscle mass either. And so differentiating these two things is one of
Not
them
gonna
is
gain
simply a
infinite
measure
muscle.
of size,
Or
and the other
infinite
one is a
strength, I
measure
mean.
of force. And when we talk about strength, what we're really talking about are two unique components.
Very
Component
true.
one is what I call the physiology. So what is the ability of the neuromuscular system? What is the ability of the muscle fibers to contract and produce force? The other one is what we call mechanics. And mechanics is simply things like, it's minutia down to how long your femurs are relative to your
Another thing.
tibia or
Depending
other
on the
things, right? This is
movement.
biomechanics. This is also technique. This is skill. This
Very
is how
true.
smooth you feel. This is, are you firing the right muscle group in the right sequence and order? And all of these things play into strength. So somebody
Very
who
true.
maybe has more force capability in their muscle fibers, but their technique in the movement is worse, may lose in a competition. Or somebody, again, who's like if you go into the world of speed and power, especially, you'll hear a lot of people talk about like the rhythm. And there's just a certain rhythm that has to happen if you want to jump as high as possible or run as fast as
Very
possible.
true.
But that's all mechanics at this fundamental level. So when we look at hypertrophy, it's just still simply about how big the muscle is.
Mm-hmm.
So those are really the similarities and distinctions between strength and hypertrophy.
Great video. This is why I love watching the podcasts between Andrew Huberman and his guests. They're all usually very educated and they know what they're talking about. Give you a more detailed, more scientific look into how training works, how it affects your body. And I highly recommend you guys go watch them, go check them out. And yeah, that's pretty much it for today, guys. The end of this video. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what else you guys want to see. And I'll catch you guys in the next video.